Okay, let's just take a second here and look at the calendar.
Hmm.
Today is Tuesday, January 20th, 2026. And if you're the kind of person who lives by their planner, maybe you're already color coding February, you might have spotted an event coming up.
Right.
It runs from sundown on February 2nd to sundown on the 3rd. It's Tu B'Shvat.
To be Shvat.
Exactly. Now, depending on your background, if you've heard of this at all, you probably know it as the New Year for trees.
That's the common take, yeah.
And I'll be honest, usually when I hear that, my brain goes to this very specific sort of cute place. I picture planting a sapling, maybe eating some dried fruit.
Some figs, some dates.
Yeah, it feels very literal, like a nice, harmless nature holiday.
It's Arbor Day with a slightly more ancient history. That's what most people think.
Exactly. But we are doing a deep dive today because the source material we're looking at, specifically this Shvat 5786 devotional journal and a teaching called Rooted Before Revelation, they're basically arguing that our whole cute nature holiday idea is completely missing the point.
It really is.
The text actually describes this date as a kingdom marker.
A kingdom marker. I love that phrasing because, honestly, if you stop at nature holiday, you miss the entire function of the date.
How so?
Well, the sources suggest it's not just about agriculture. It's a template for how growth actually works, specifically the kind of growth you can't see yet.
And that is our mission for this deep dive. We're going to look under the hood of Tu B'Shvat. We're exploring this whole concept of rooted before revelation.
Yeah.
Because if there's one thing I took from these notes, and it kind of annoyed me at first because it's so true, it's that real growth is almost always established in secret.
Long before it ever shows up on Instagram.
Long before it shows up in your bank account anywhere public.
Yeah, absolutely. We live in a culture of reveal, but nature operates on a culture of root.
So here's the pitch for you listening. If you are working your tail off right now, and you feel like you're stuck in a holding pattern, or maybe you aren't seeing the results you think you deserve, stick around. This research completely reframes the whole idea of waiting.
It really does. It changes waiting from something passive, something you just have to endure, into an active mechanism.
An active mechanism.
Yeah. The core promise here is understanding that dormancy does not mean death.
Let's start with the history then, because this was the first huge surprise for me. I just assumed Tu B'Shvat started as, a festival, people dancing in orchards, celebrating trees.
That's a logical assumption.
But the sources paint a very different picture.
Yeah.
It sounds bureaucratic.
It was incredibly bureaucratic. It wasn't a festival at all, not originally. It was a fiscal boundary.
A fiscal boundary? You mean like a financial quarter?
Exactly like that.
Yeah.
Think of it less like a holiday party and more like the end of the fiscal year for an accountant.
Okay.
In ancient Israel, the economy was agrarian. And you had these very complex, very specific laws about tithing, giving a portion of your produce back, and offering first fruits.
Right.
To do that legally, you had to know which tax year a specific pomegranate or fig belonged to.
So it was basically tax day for trees.
Essentially, yes. Tu B'Shvat was the cutoff line. It determined the legal age of the tree and therefore the assignment of its fruit.
Okay, so walk me through the logic here. If a fig ripens on February 1st versus, say, February 4th, does it really matter that much?
It mattered immensely for the accounting. If it ripened before Tu B'Shvat, it belonged to the previous year's tithe.
Got it.
If it ripened after, it was the new year. So it was a hard boundary for three things. Which year the fruit belonged to, when it could be legally tithed, and most importantly, determining the maturity of the growth.
And this leads to a concept in the notes called accountability to time. It says you couldn't rush fruit.
Right, and this is where we move from agriculture to, really, philosophy. You couldn't claim a harvest outside of its assigned season.
So you couldn't fudge the numbers.
Exactly. Imagine you're a farmer, and you have a crop that is almost ready. It looks good, it smells ready. But if it hasn't crossed that date line, you cannot force it into the previous year's books just because you want the credit for it now.
That hits a nerve. We are obsessed with now. We want the credit now, the launch now, the viral moment now. If I have a good idea, I want to monetize it yesterday.
But the kingdom principle here is that God governs growth by seasons, not by our urgency.
Oof. Say that again?
God governs growth by seasons, not by our urgency. That's the big takeaway. Just because you feel urgent doesn't mean the season has changed. The date Tu B'Shvat was an external standard that even nature had to submit to.
It's humbling. It's a reminder that we aren't the ones spinning the planet.
Right.
We can hustle all we want, but we can't make the sun rise any faster.
You can manipulate the optics, but you cannot manipulate the season.
Okay, so if that's the legal side, the tax side, let's look at the biology. Because the sources call this the biological paradox, and I love this part because it really helps you visualize what's happening in the dirt.
This is my favorite part of the research because it's so counterintuitive.
Right.
If you go to Israel right now, late January, early February, and you walk into an orchard, what do you see?
Well, it's winter. Even in the Middle East, it's the rainy season. It's cold. So I'm assuming gray skies, cold ground, bare branches.
Totally.
It looks dead.
Visually, it looks completely dead. It's dormant. There are no leaves, no flowers, certainly no fruit. But Tu B'Shvat isn't marked by the budding of leaves.
Okay.
It's marked by the sap beginning to rise.
The hidden miracle.
It's a thermal and biological shift. The ground is still cold, the air is crisp, but deep inside the trunk, the life force, the sap, has started to move upward against gravity.
The text uses this phrase that I think I need to just tattoo on my forehead. Silence does not mean stagnation.
That's the key distinction. In our world, we equate visibility with activity. We think if we can't see movement, if we aren't seeing the likes, the sales, the applause,
then nothing is happening.
Exactly. But the biology of the tree tells us the most critical moment of the year, the moment life actually resumes, happens when no one can see it.
The source also uses a phrase here I want to ask you about. Prophetic surgicality. That sounds really intense. What does surgicality mean here?
It implies precision and an internal focus. Life shifts internally before any external movement begins.
Okay.
It's surgical because it's specific to the inner workings of the tree. Before a branch grows a single millimeter, the sap has to rise to support that growth. The internal pressure has to build first.
That makes so much sense. You can't sustain the branch if the veins aren't full.
Precisely.
So, for you listening, if you're in a winter season, maybe you're working on a massive project no one knows about, or you're just working on your own character.
Dealing with a trauma or habits, yeah.
And on the surface, it looks like nothing is changing. Your life looks the same as it did 6 months ago.
This is your encouragement. Just because you can't see the fruit doesn't mean the internal momentum hasn't started. The sap is rising.
So you're in that Tu B'Shvat moment.
Yes, where the mechanism of life is active, even if the evidence of life is delayed.
Speaking of delayed evidence, we have to talk about the law of Orlah. I'll be honest, I read this section 3 times.
It's wild, isn't it?
I had never even heard of this term before, and it blew my mind.
The Orlah principle is fascinating, and it is very, very countercultural to how we do business today. It's based on Leviticus 19.
And it's a law, right? Not a suggestion.
It is law.
Yeah.
It is effectively a mandatory 5-year business plan for any new fruit tree.
Okay, so break down this timeline for us.
You plant a fruit tree. For the first 3 years, any fruit it produces is considered uncircumcised. That's the literal translation of Orlah. Forbidden.
Meaning you can't eat it.
You cannot eat it. You can't sell it.
Yeah.
You can't even gift it. You have to just let it drop to the ground.
3 years. I mean, think about that. Imagine starting a new company. You build the product, you get users, and the investors tell you, hey, for the first 3 years, you can't touch a single dollar of revenue.
Right. You have to let the money burn. It creates an agonizing patience.
It gets stricter.
It does. Year 4. The fruit is considered holy. It is dedicated entirely to the Lord as an offering. You still don't get to eat it.
You're kidding.
You harvest it, but you give it all away.
So you are 4 years in. You've been watering this thing, pruning it, fighting off bugs, worrying about the frost, and you have not tasted a single bite.
Correct. It is only in the 5th year that the fruit is finally enjoyed by the planter.
Why? I mean, I understand the spiritual discipline aspect, but logically, if the tree produces a perfectly good apple in year 2, why can't I eat it? What is the point of the waste?
So the source explains this as mandating root establishment over visible results. It's all about structural integrity.
What do you mean?
If a tree starts pumping out heavy, harvestable fruit in year 1 or 2, all of its energy goes into the fruit, not into the root system.
Oh, because fruit is expensive for the tree to make.
Biologically, it's very expensive. It takes a massive amount of nutrients and water. So if a young tree focuses on fruit, its roots stay shallow. By forbidding the harvest, the tree is forced to invest its energy into its structure.
So it's forced to drive the roots deeper.
Exactly. Because there's no demand on the branches.
So the Orlah years are about forcing the tree to become strong enough to actually hold the weight of its future success.
Precisely. And the text asks a really painful question here. If a tree requires years before its output is even touched. Why do we as humans expect instant validation in our careers or our personal growth?
That is a painful question. We post one thing online and want to be viral. We start a business and want to be profitable in month one.
We start a diet and want to see abs in a week.
Yeah, and the warning in the source is stark. It says, fruit that appears too early cannot endure responsibility.
Fruit that appears too early cannot endure responsibility.
Wow.
Think about it. If you get the success before you have the character, the root structure to sustain it, the weight of that fruit will literally topple the tree.
We see this all the time.
All the time. Look at lottery winners who go bankrupt. Look at young influencers or athletes who get too much fame too soon and just collapse under the pressure.
Because they had fruit but no root.
Exactly. The structure couldn't hold the blessing. So those years where you feel like you're giving and getting nothing back,
Those aren't wasted time.
they are not wasted time. They are strengthening years. You aren't being denied. You are being established. You're building the capacity to carry what's coming.
That is such a perspective shift. It makes the silence feel productive.
It makes the silence necessary.
Which leads us perfectly to the specific tree that is the star of Tu B'Shvat, the almond tree.
Watchman.
Right. The source identifies the almond tree as the very first to awaken in Israel around this time. But there's a really cool linguistic connection here that I want you to unpack for me.
Oh, the Hebrew wordplay here is beautiful. So the Hebrew word for almond is shake.
Shake.
The root meaning of that word is to watch, to be alert, or to stay awake.
Because it wakes up first.
Yes. It's the early riser of the botanical world. It blooms with these white and pink flowers, while every other tree is still gray and naked. But it connects to Scripture in Jeremiah chapter 1. God asks the prophet, Jeremiah, what do you see? And Jeremiah says, I see a branch of an almond tree, a shake.
A shake, got it.
And God replies, you have seen well, for I am watching choked over my word to perform it.
Shaked and choked.
It's a pun, but it's a prophetic one. The almond tree represents discernment, early awareness. It's about spiritual alertness before there is public evidence.
Because the almond tree blooms while everything else is still sleeping, it's almost taking a risk.
It is. The rest of nature is hitting the snooze button, but the almond tree knows the season has shifted. And the insight here is that those who are deeply rooted are like the almond tree.
They can perceive the change.
They can perceive that the season has changed before anyone else sees the actual fruit. They sense the sap rising.
So if you're listening, the question is, am I awake? Am I watching? Can I sense the shift before the results are obvious?
That's the mark of maturity. The crowd waits for the fruit. The watchman senses the season.
The crowd needs proof. The watchman just needs a signal. Now, the source material also breaks down the tree as a sort of kingdom blueprint. It gives us 4 levels of spiritual development, and I think this is a great visual for our own lives. We usually only focus on the last one.
It gives a complete anatomy, moving from the hidden to the visible. So first you have the roots.
Which are faith and source.
Right. This is hidden. This is where life is drawn from. No one sees your prayer life, your internal convictions, the books you read, the thoughts you think.
That's the root system.
And if that dries up, everything else dies.
Then you have the trunk.
The trunk and bark. That represents character and endurance, your capacity to withstand pressure. Can you stand tall when the wind blows?
And after that, the branches.
Reach and community. This is how your influence extends, how you connect with others.
And then finally, the fruit.
Which is your results and your legacy. This is what nourishes other people.
What I found really powerful in the notes was this contrast between the roots and the fruit. It says, fruit is public, roots are private.
And fruit feeds others, but roots keep the tree alive. That is the critical point.
Yeah.
We spend all our energy trying to polish our fruit, our public image, our output, because that's what people see. But if you neglect the private world of the roots, the tree just dies.
You can have plastic fruit on a dead tree for a while.
For a while, yeah. But it won't last.
It reminds me of people who are incredible at their job. They have great fruit, but their personal life is a wreck. The roots are bad.
And eventually the job suffers too.
Oh.
Always. The source gives a pretty dire warning about drought here. It says, if you chase fruit, drought will destroy you.
Okay.
If you cultivate roots, fruit is inevitable.
If you cultivate roots, fruit is inevitable. That is a mic drop moment right there.
It's about the order of operations. You don't focus on the apple, you focus on the water source for the roots. The apple is just a byproduct of a healthy connection.
So it takes the pressure off, striving for results.
And puts the focus back on abiding.
So let's bring this all to the present. We're looking at the year 5786. The source has this section called the sap check. This is the application part.
This is where the rubber meets the road. It asks us to do a self-inventory.
And the core question is, what are you drawing life from right now?
And you have to be honest with yourself. Is it God's word? Or is it pressure? Are you running on the fuel of anxiety or the sap of the Spirit?
Are you abiding or are you striving?
Exactly.
It's so easy to draw life from external validation. I mean, we all do it. I feel alive because people liked my post or because my boss praised me. That's a shallow root.
It's a root that goes into dry soil. And shallow sources produce unstable growth. If your joy depends on external praise, your joy will wither when the praise stops.
Right.
That's why Shvat precedes the spring. You have to check your source before the expansion happens.
The practical activation here suggests asking yourself what's moving inside you that hasn't surfaced yet.
This goes right back to the rising sap. We need to acknowledge those quiet convictions. Maybe you have a deepened understanding of something that you haven't shared yet. Maybe there is a hidden obedience, something you're doing right that nobody knows about.
A sacrifice you're making in secret, that's the sap rising.
It is. And we should mention the astronomical context here. Right now, we are in a season of increasing daylight. Since the winter solstice, the days are getting longer.
Light is returning.
And underground, water is moving. The soil is reactivating. The source says this mirrors the kingdom pattern. Alignment precedes acceleration.
Alignment precedes acceleration. That's good. So get aligned now while it's quiet.
Because the acceleration is coming. This year, 5786 is described in the journal as emphasizing connection, establishment, and durability. Not hype.
Not hype. I love that. We have enough hype in the world.
We need more durability.
Yeah.
We need trees that can survive a storm, not just decorations that look good for a day.
So as we wrap up, let's recap this journey. We started with Shvat, not as a party, but as a legal boundary, a check-in on our timing and maturity.
We moved to the biological miracle of the sap rising in the cold proof that life is moving even when we can't see it.
We talked about the Orlah years, the discipline of waiting 5 years for the roots to be able to handle the blessing.
And the almond tree, the call to be a watchman who sees the season before the crowd sees the harvest.
It really all comes down to that shift in perspective. If you are listening to this and you feel like you are in a holding pattern or you feel invisible,
the closing encouragement from the source is specifically for you. It says, if you are in a quiet season, you are not delayed. You are being fortified.
You are being fortified. That is such a stronger word than waiting.
It implies active strengthening. The sap is rising. The roots are deepening. The watchman is over his word.
And I want to leave you with this final thought from the source material. It notes that this specific time to Shvat 5786 falls after revelation, but before establishment.
It's that middle space.
Yeah, between the insight and the embodiment.
That's the hardest place to be.
It is. So my challenge to you is to trust that watchman concept. Trust that being rooted is infinitely more important than being seen. The fruit will come. It has to. It's biology. But only if you respect the season of the root.
Well said.
Thanks for diving in with us. We'll catch you in the next deep dive.
Stay rooted.
If this deep dive into Shvat helped you see the season more clearly, I want to invite you to go a step deeper. This teaching flows directly from the Shvat 5786 Monthly Devotional, which provides the scriptures and daily structure behind what we explored here. You can download your copy using the link in the description. It's just $5.99, and it's designed to help you walk this season intentionally, day by day. And if you appreciate these kinds of biblical deep dives, make sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss what's coming next. Thank you for walking this journey with us, and God bless.